Hi, I'm Cheryl Kagan, very proud to be the senator for Gaithersburg and Rockville, and thrilled to present my friend and colleague, Brooke Lierman, as my special guest on Kibitzing with Kagan. Welcome, Delegate Lierman.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yay. So I've known you since you were like this old. But why don't we start by talking about your childhood, because you have the most wonderful background, both Montgomery County and Baltimore City, two key parts of our state. Why don't you talk about that?
Thank you so much. Yes, we have known each other for many years now. I think my very first campaign experience was door knocking when you first ran for state delegates, and you won. So look at that. And of course, then I was a page in the House of Delegates when you were serving through my high school. I grew up in Bethesda and graduated from Walt Whitman High School. And I know, sorry.
It's a rival school for people who don't know. I'm a proud Churchill Bulldog.
What can you do? And then had the pleasure of attending Dartmouth College. So really loved having the experience of, rigorous academic experience, and also learned a lot there. I helped start a mentoring program when I was at Dartmouth, working with children who lived in a public housing development just down the road. We called the program Dream. And I'm happy to say after graduating, we turned it into a nonprofit. My friends Mike and John were executive directors, and I was the first development director. And 20 years later, that mentoring program, the Dream program, is growing strong. There are Dream programs at every college in Vermont and New Hampshire, around Boston and Philadelphia as well. So loved that, found my way, worked on campaigns for a little while.
Before you go forward, you were also on the crew team. Talk about the discipline and the hard work that.
Yes, I was a rower in high school at Walt Whitman. I also rowed for my boathouse, Thompson Boat Center. So I was every season rower, and it was an incredible experience. I mean, it really was. I learned discipline and hard work and teamwork. I mean, there's no sport. I mean, all sports are great, but there is nothing quite when you're in the boat and you're totally dependent on one another and have to be completely in sync, right?
Yeah,
a wonderful experience. Proud to be the captain of Dartmouth and row there as well, and really loved that experience. In fact, in Baltimore, I'm also delighted I represent the boathouse here.
There you go.
There's a great rowing program, one of the most diverse rowing programs in the country, in fact, here, working with kids from around the city, which is very cool too. But eventually made my way to Baltimore via the University of Texas School of Law, had a great education there, and was able to secure a federal clerkship in Baltimore. Actually clerked for both a judge in the Baltimore courthouse and the Greenbelt courthouse. And then got a job working at a great civil rights and disability rights law firm, Brown Goldstein and Levy, where I'm of counsel and have been there over a decade now. So, really thrilled to live in Fells Point with my husband and two kids, and love to still have family in Montgomery County as well, both in Tacoma Park and Bethesda, and family in Greenbelt. So we're all over the state.
All over the place. Good way to get votes, but we will get to all that. Before we go to the beginning of your legislative career, let's just talk for a moment about Paul Wellstone.
Mm-hmm.
So he was one of my heroes and was a incredible leader. Why don't you just talk about who he was and what he was for you in your life?
Yeah. Absolutely. So, I, after college and after working at the Dream program, and doing other things, I had always been interested in organizing, and I had always admired Paul Wellstone, and he was up for re-election. And I drove my little car out to Minnesota and was able to get a job as a field organizer working on his 2002 re-election campaign. And I loved working for him. It was such an honor. We worked with such a broad section of the community, and people everywhere loved him. And unfortunately, of course, he actually, right after he voted against the authorization for the war in Iraq, and not too long after, he died in a plane crash with his wife, his daughter, and several of my fellow staffers, going to a funeral of a constituent. And, it was a devastating experience. And certainly it was, as a young person, right? It was one of my first jobs. I guess it was actually before Dream. It was like a very early on in my career. Having him to look up to was amazing. The last event on his campaign website was an event that I did with him for the with hundreds of nurses talking with him and him firing them up about the reelection. But I also, I learned so much from him. It was such an honor to work for him. And I take his messages forward through my life. And I've kept in touch with many of my coworkers. He used to always say, we all do better when we all do better.
Yes.
And that has really become a cornerstone and value that I share with the people that I know. Here in Baltimore, I remind neighborhoods, we all do better when we all do better. It's just not one neighborhood versus the other, and in the state, right? And we all have to be in this together, working to support one another. So,
Amen.
Yep.
So let's pivot to something happy, because I'm still devastated by Paul's passing. So what made you decide to run for the House of Delegates, and talk about your career, which has been so stellar?
Sure. So when I moved to Baltimore, my husband and I settled in Fells Point. I was at this, love working at the law firm, representing people with disabilities, representing low-wage workers who aren't being paid what they owed. I represented a man who was wrongfully convicted, served 21 years for a crime he didn't commit. We got the largest settlement ever from Baltimore Police Department. And I remember somebody saying to me in an event early on, oh, I know the kind of lawyer you are. And I said, what does that mean? And they said, you're the kind of lawyer who gives people a voice. And I said, almost, but not exactly, because my clients, they have a voice. My job is to make sure it's being heard. Right. And I felt like in my new adopted hometown of Baltimore City, there were all these communities with really important voices and messages, but they just weren't being heard. Mm-hmm. A good example would be my first day of work. I tried to take the bus, the number 10 bus from Fells Point to downtown, and the bus didn't come. And for me, that was a disappointment. I could walk to work or bike or drive. I could afford a car. But for the 1/3 of Baltimoreans who don't own a car, it's not a disappointment. It's a disaster when the bus doesn't show up and you can't get to work. And it is for their employers too, right? They don't have access to a reliable workforce. I also was looking at schools around the city. I'd graduated from Montgomery County Public Schools, but the school that I was, sending my child to and other schools around the city were not what any of us should expect or hope or, deserve for our children. So I really felt like there was more to be done, and decided to throw my hat in the ring for state delegate. So knocked on 14,000 doors, learned from you, and I loved knocking on doors and talking to people, held dozens of meet and greets, and won. And, really proud. I was a top vote getter in both 2014 when I first ran and for my reelection. And I think it's, I know it's because people know that I'm there for them. And when they need something, I show up. I'm effective and on the ground with them, and I've loved doing it. It's been an honor. Yeah.
You have been super effective and recognized as such in the press as one of the top 10 legislators in so many places and so many well-deserved awards, including you and I were both legislators here jointly by the League of Conservation Voters for the Urbane Styrofoam. Tell me a couple of other bills that you're especially proud of passing.
Sure. I try to bring coalitions together like we did for the styrofoam bill. I really try to build coalitions around issues that will have a substantial impact, over the long term, for the good, on communities around the state. So, one of the issues that I've worked extensively on over the years is transit, right? And ensuring that Maryland has a multimodal transportation system. So I've worked extensively with, Delegate Mark Corman, when he was bringing the Metro Transit Funding Bill, which helped provide additional needed funding for the Metro system around the DC suburbs. And that also set us up to do a capital needs assessment for the Maryland Transit Administration, the other transit system in Maryland, the MTA, right, that covers all of around Baltimore and will be the Purple Line and more. And through that capital needs assessment last year, we were able to pass the largest funding mandate for the Maryland Transit Administration in MTA history, because we have just seen there's over $2 billion of need over the next 10 years between what is needed and what was allocated by Governor Hogan. So now we're able to chip away at that and actually create a transit system that works for employers and for Marylanders.
So that's one of the challenges with so many Democrats having supported Larry Hogan, And he seems like a good guy and he seems moderate, and it's invisible stuff like support for mass transit that a lot of people don't pay attention to that have.
Right. I mean, it's, yeah, you know, I served on the appropriations committee for 5 years, and the transit budget was simply devastated.
Yeah.
And we saw that actually with the Purple Line. You know, he tried to get this good deal and cut out what the state was going to put in. And now, years later, we are taxpayers left holding the bag because the Purple Line's going to be years late and, you know, billions over budget,
Yep.
all from him trying to say, oh, we're not going to fund it at the same rate we should have. So, you know, not good fiscal thinking. Yeah. You know, one other bill I was really excited about was last year during the pandemic, we saw just how important online access is, right? I mean, we're on Zoom right now, and all our kids were on Zoom or Google Classrooms, but so many people around the state don't have access to high-speed, affordable broadband. And we didn't have an office working on this. In fact, there was no office set up to accept federal money so that we could get that money to local municipalities and to local counties to help deploy broadband. So I worked with a coalition. We had about 60 organizations around the state to create the Office of Statewide Broadband. And that office is now up and running. In fact, CNBC named Maryland the most improved state in the nation for business based on our transit funding bill and the Office of Statewide Broadband. So that was exciting.
That's impressive.
Yeah, I was excited.
So after all your successes and just all your recognition and hard work, you have decided to leave the House of Delegates and run for comptroller. So why don't you talk briefly about something you're really good at, which is what the comptroller is and why you want to be our next comptroller.
Sure. You know, I think, are really on the precipice of opportunity here in Maryland. We can really heed the clarion call, the lessons that we've learned from the pandemic, from the racial reckoning that we're going through as a country and state. And we are about to receive more federal funding than at any other time in our state's history. Couple all of that with the fact that there has not been an open seat for state comptroller since 1998. So we have this incredible opportunity now to really reimagine how the comptroller's office works to support families, communities, and small businesses and nonprofits, right? To make sure that, there you go, to make sure that it's an advocate for all of them, and to make sure that that federal money coming in is getting to the ground, you know, getting to where it needs to be to really create generational change, to help us tackle the climate change challenges, to help us tackle the racial wealth divide. And so I'm excited to bring a bold new vision and my ability to get things done to that office. So yeah, I'm very excited about the challenge. Yeah.
So it's noteworthy that you would be the first statewide woman in a state office elected on her own right, not in partnership with lieutenant governor or something. Talk about how that feels as a possible shattering this glass ceiling and stuff. I mean, obviously,
sure. Yeah,
the Senate to office as, you know, federal office, but talk about that for a state office.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I think when I mention it to people, they're truly shocked, right? I think that's the first thing, is that it is shocking that in 2022, we have never elected a woman to be our governor or comptroller or attorney general, right? No woman in her own right has been in statewide state office. And we're one of very few states, you know, who can say that. Almost every state in the nation has elected a woman to statewide state office. But it's so important that we have representation that reflects the diversity of the state and, you know, brings our lived experiences and is dedicated to creating inclusive environments where we can listen to and hear and understand the challenges that, you know, are presented to different communities. And, you know, I represent an extremely diverse district right now. Every neighborhood around the water in Baltimore is in my district. That means I have 3 Main Street districts in downtown, the Ritz, the stadiums, 8 public housing developments, all the Latino communities in the city. So, you know, I've loved being able to make sure all these different communities have a seat at the table and have my ear so that I can understand and listen to them about what needs to happen to make them and help them thrive, right? And really reach their full potential. And so I think I bring that experience and perspective, and hopefully, you know, hopefully women everywhere and little girls everywhere will see that they too can run the money, right? That they can be CFOs and comptrollers. So, which is exciting.
Love that. Before we shift to your campaign, tell us one thing you think the current comptroller's office does really well and one thing you would prioritize that needs attention in changing.
Sure. So I think that one thing the current comptroller is doing very well is making sure that people in the farthest reaches of the state understand that that he is listening to them, right? So recently I was in Garrett County and Allegheny County, and certainly people there know, they see Peter Franchot, right? So I think that's important. I feel determined as well to be very present and proactive around the state. And I think it's important to physically show up to areas of the state that are not used to always seeing our statewide elected officials. So that's something that I will certainly continue. I do think that we have a lot to do to modernize the office. I think, we want to make sure the comptroller's office is working well for everybody. Our businesses who do procurement, right? Making sure that they know where the money is, they know when they're being paid, making sure. I'm excited to create small business portals so that our nonprofits and our small businesses have one place they can check in and see everything they've paid, everything they owe, get all their records, right? Want to make it just much easier to do business with the state and in the state. And we need to do that by modernizing the office. Another thing that'll result in is that, the comptroller's office is the hub of all financial data in the state, but we're not using it right now. And, as legislators, we don't have access to it. We don't hear reports on bills from the comptroller's office. So I want to make sure that all of that financial data can help our municipal leaders, our county leaders, our state legislators, and our business leaders to drill down and see what programs are working and what's not, and where there's need and where there isn't. So I think I'm really excited to be able to use data, and modernize the office in a way that hasn't been done yet.
Love it, love it, love it. And you and I are working on a
Exactly.
bill on a procurement and payment portal. So
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's talk about the campaign. You have been everywhere talking on, getting lots and lots of endorsements, including mine and all the delegates, all three of the delegates and stuff. Talk briefly about how people can get involved and how it's going.
Thank you for that. I'm really proud. We are running a strong grassroots campaign all over the state of Maryland. We have steering committees and regional teams of volunteers who are door knocking their neighborhoods, who are phoning their neighborhoods. I had over 4,000 unique donors, individual donors to my campaign last year, which was really, really meaningful and humbling, and really thrilled to have the support of the District 17 team and colleagues all over the state. County council members. Last week, we rolled out the support of more than 75 municipal leaders, including many mayors. So it all means a lot. But at the end of the day, it's about reaching voters and making sure that when they show up to the polling place, they know, one, we're electing a new comptroller because it's been a while, and
right.
Two, what my message is, and that I will be their advocate. So we need people's help. You can get involved by signing up at brookelierman.com/volunteer. You can visit my website at brookelierman.com to see policy positions, ideas, thoughts, and share your experiences and ideas as well. And of course, I'm on social media, on Facebook, Brooke Lierman for Maryland, and Instagram and Twitter as well.
We'll have the slide at the end of this.
Oh, great. Okay.
So, and if you sign up,
upside down. Yeah.
Get one of these too. Yes. I got one on my car. I have a bumper sticker on my car. So
yes.
Before we go to 5, Delegate Lierman, this is a question I asked of President Ferguson, and I think it's annoying when it's asked of only women. So I am asking this of you, but I have asked it of men as well, which is, how on earth do you do it all? How do you balance being a wonderful spouse, you've got a great husband and 2 precious kids, and you're a delegate, and you're running for office, and you've got some law firm on occasion stuff, and staying healthy and seeing friends and sleeping times and staying. So talk about what's the trick? I don't know that there's a trick other than not a lot of sleep. But no, I do try very hard to
be very efficient, but also to just be present and look for quality over quantity in terms of my time with my family. So if we are reading stories, I don't have my phone, right? I'm reading stories, I'm focused, right? So it's, but I also know my children also really understand and have come to more and more understand the work that I do, and that it's important to, and I think that it's become a source of pride for them, especially my 9-year-old who's grown up in it. He really loves it and is excited about this idea. My 4-year-old came home the other day and the preschool teachers told my husband that she'd been lobbying everybody to vote for her mom for president. So we worked on like, no, not president. It's a different office, like comfort, you know.
Yes,
so.
Yes, I'll say yes. Why not, right?
But I also it's really important, I think, for there to be office holders who have kids in this stage of life. So you see, going through COVID, understanding what parents have been going through and why there aren't as many women in the workforce right now, because our schools are out every other, and so I do think
is unavailable and
right. Yeah, exactly. The childcare issues. And so I think it's really important to have people from all different walks of life and all different stages of life in office. And that's one of the things that keeps me going. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, Delegate Brooke Lierman, candidate for Maryland State Comptroller. Fast five quick questions to help people get to know you a little bit better. First, what is the thing that your kids have taught you?
My kids are very funny, and I think they have taught me to loosen up. They provide perspective and they've helped me loosen up sometimes. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
What is a favorite family outing in Baltimore?
Great question. So one of my favorite things to do is a walk around the harbor, grab lunch at So Beachy, this awesome Haitian restaurant in Cross Street Market, and head up to Federal Hill Park and hang out on the playground and swings, or maybe pop down to the new Rashfield Park, which is a beautiful new park in the Inner Harbor, or go to the Science Center, Port Discovery inside. So there's a lot of great stuff that we can do just walking, which I really love.
Love that. What is one food that you absolutely won't eat?
Eggplant.
In any form.
I am not, I do not. I've never gotten into eggplant. I don't like eggplant.
Okay.
I'm a pescatarian, and so eggplant is often one of the things that, and I'm like, oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you could trade jobs with anyone in the world for a day, whom would you choose?
Gosh, that's a good one. Who would I choose to change jobs with? I think for me, the question is whether I would want it to be a political person, so I could have some effect on policy in that one day, or whether it would be potentially somebody in a foreign country, like an aid worker, or somebody working with refugees at the border, to maybe for one day make a difference in people's lives that they would remember. So I'm not really sure, but I think there is something to be said about being able to make a tangible difference, as an aid worker or somebody in another country, just to make a difference in somebody's life for the better for one day.
Right. And the fifth question, the one I ask everyone, Delegate Brooke Lierman, what is your hidden secret superpower? What is something you're really good at, a skill or talent that most folks can't do?
What is my hidden secret superpower? That's a good question. I don't know if this is a superpower, but I am a zero inbox person.
Oh my God. Oh.
So I answer all emails, or they go someplace else. I like things completed and finished and out of my inbox.
So that is a rare superpower, and it blows my mind, actually, because I have a million. Yeah, that's amazing. Well, Brooke Lierman, what a pleasure. Thank you so much for making time to Kibbitz with me today. And thank you for your leadership, your service, for being a statewide candidate, and for all that you do. I look forward to seeing you again before too long.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. And thank you. This is a wonderful service that you provide your constituents. You are, a fantastic and important leader in our state and in the Senate, and a wonderful friend to everybody who knows you. So thank you so much for all you do. And thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. See you soon in person. Take care, huh?
Take care.